Good day and welcome. Our guest today is accomplished actress, writer, performer, songwriter, as she co-authored 3 TV theme songs and the anthem for Project Literacy, along with being a regular contributor to FX Son of the Beach, a winner of Drama Lounge Award for Best Performance in Katz Music and Characters, winner of the LA Weekly Award of her play Codependently Yours, a pioneer member and former director of the Groundling School, a master in her craft teaching writing, character development, musical improv, and corporate classes, author of Hipwrecked, My Health Insurance Sucks, So I Went to India, her unique style crafting and creating opera meets improv, and a popular spoof of A Bunch of Losers Reading Their Essays. A reoccurring guest instructor at Actors Comedy Studio, as well as Margie Harbor Studios. Some of her former students include J.J. Abrams, Jennifer Coolidge, Will Ferrell, Kathy Griffin, Daryl Hansen, Lisa Kudrow, and John Lovitz. Our guest has worked as an actor, writer, director, improviser, and teacher in varying combinations for film, television, web, and stage for over 30 years. Her productions include Road, Coming Attractions, MASH, Cheech and Chong's Next Movie, The Billy Crystal Comedy Hour, Cheeseballs, Cheers, Grace Under Fire, Mike Hammer, Private Eye, We've Got Balls, Zombievers, and you may recognize her voice in Dr. Doolittle, Darkwing Duck, The New Scooby-Doo, and Scrappy-Doo Show. Please welcome the legendary Phyllis Katz.
Thank you.
Thank you so much and welcome to the show.
Where did you find all that stuff? There's some I didn't even want you to mention. Oh my God. Yeah. Hi, thank you.
Welcome. No, it's an extensive resume, and I look forward to watching it grow even more.
Thank you. I have one correction. It was Margie Haber, not Margie Harbor.
Margie Haber.
Yeah, just because I want her to get credit. She's has a wonderful school. And I'm also now working with the Screen Acting Studio.
Oh, fabulous.
So, yeah.
So I'd love to dive into it with you. You are a co-founder of the Groundlings. Now, for some of us who don't know what the Groundlings is or what they do, tell us.
Okay. We are a theater company in Los Angeles, and we have a school in improvisation. So you learn how to improvise, and then if you get to the upper levels, then writing sketches. So we have it's always a very talented group, and also many talented people who don't even wind up getting into the group have passed through there. It's going to be 50 years coming up.
Wow.
Yeah, and we're going to celebrate 50 years next year. We do sketch comedy and we do improv, and then we do alternative shows and variations on all of that. And some wonderful people who you do know came through there, including some that you named. But Will Ferrell and Kathy Griffin and Lisa Kudrow and Jennifer Coolidge and Cheryl Hines. I could go on and on and on. I'm going to leave people out and I'm going to feel terrible. And then some who became directors like Mike McDonald and J.J. Abrams, who didn't get as far as the company because he quit because he was in my advanced class, and he said he needed to take a break because he had a couple of things going on. And then, he was like a kid when I knew him, and boy, did he have things going on. And so we talk people like that have come through us.
When we talk about the Groundlings and this instrumental piece in the industry, and with the improv, for some of us, all we ever hear is the yes and of improv, and we're making stuff up on the spot. As a master in your craft, can you kind of give us a little bit more of an insight to, as myself know, I know it's more than that, but some people just say, oh, you're just making it up, or it's just a yes and. Right. What's the secret behind improv?
Well, it's a skill, and I think it's a skill of getting back to who you were as a kid, because when you were a kid and you were playing with your friends, you're not worried about how it's going. You're making it up, and you've got all this fantasy information, and you say everything you know, and you make up everything else, and you're collaborating, and you're playing well with others, and it's fabulous, and everybody feels good, and the scene keeps moving forward. And then we become adults, and then we get into a classroom or on a stage to do this, and then all these stakes are there for us. I can't look stupid. I have to get hired off the stage for Saturday Night Live, which many people did, not only at the Groundlings, but many from the Groundlings. So there are all these things at stake suddenly, and you have to learn to let that go. And I think the big secret to improv is living in the moment, just being in the moment, out of your head and in the moment, which I think applies to everything in life practically. Right? I don't want a doctor to make it up on the spot if he's doing surgery on me, but I sure want him to be in the moment. So I'm sure there's way more than that, but off the top of my head, that's what I think is the big thing.
That's fabulous. I studied improv for years, and it's 100% accurate. You get in your own head, and for me, I have no problem looking stupid in front of people. So let's get up on that stage.
Yeah, and I also think what it's about is, I mean, yes and is any good school teaches you some version of yes and I think that I think what makes improv so exciting is that it's happening on the spot. It's not only collaborative with each other but with the audience, and they give you something. You ask for something, they give you something, and based on what they give you, you can build this world. And there are so many different ways to do it, because it's like, no two snowflakes are the same. Yeah. That's what it is with people on stage. So if you're really there and you're really being genuine, then all these things happen. And I think of it as jazz acting and writing. Okay. Jazz acting, writing. It's like, you ever see jazz musicians? They can show up. My oldest brother, Stu, is a jazz musician, and they just show up at some place, and somebody will say, "Sophisticated lady," and then they go, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're all there. It's amazing. And so a good improviser can step in there. I think that somebody from Second City and UCB and Groundlings could all, if you're a good improviser, you all get up there, you can make a great scene together, no matter which school you came from.
Now, when we talk about the School of the Groundlings, and you talk about the co-foundership to it, what started it? What was the drive for you guys to start the Groundlings?
Well, I'll tell you how it started. I technically did not start it at the very beginning. I came in about 2 years into it, but I was one of the founders of the current theater on Melrose, and one of the co-creators of the school. But Gary Austin, God bless him, he's no longer with us. Gary Austin had these workshops at a place called The Cellar, which I think was in the basement of the Comedy Store, but you'd have to check that. I'm not sure. But Gary Austin had these classes. Oh, I'm getting a text while we talk, an attachment. I'm sure it's firecrackers. These will be coming in. That's what people send. So Gary Austin had these classes, and then more and more people started showing up. And then they rented a space in East Hollywood called the Oxford Theater. And I came around during then. I started at Second City in Chicago. I was not in their main company. I was in classes for years with Josephine Forsberg, who was my main teacher. And then 5 of us, 4 friends and myself, moved to Los Angeles. And one of them had seen this show at the Oxford and said, oh, there's this really fun group that did this show. So 2 of us, Bill Steinkellner and I, went to see it. And we went up to Gary afterwards and said, "Do you have any classes?" And he talked to us, and he had us fill out an application. And he said, "Oh, it's clear you've done a lot." And we formed our own group, and we're performing all over the city before we moved to LA. And he said, "I'd love to have you come in." And that's how I got involved. But what got me about that show was that, for one thing, Gary was really good at staging things visually. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of, it wasn't just talking heads. and it wasn't just, oh, we're very bright and we're very clever, which isn't to put down anything from where I came from, because there was plenty of visual stuff going on, but he really had a specific visual sense, and it was joyful. There were a lot of people in it. At Second City, there were only 7 in the company at a time. Yeah. So somebody would have to leave, and we would all audition and keep trying and it was hard to get in that company. Here, there were about 30 people in the show, and it was a 37-seat theater, I think, or a 50-seat theater. And so sometimes it felt like there were more people up there than in the audience. And all of the women were doing all kinds of things. So you weren't just the wife, the mother, the understanding secretary at the time would have been the word. I think it's administrative assistant now, or whatever, or a personal assistant. But they were doing that. Now, in our group in Chicago, we were doing that. And in classes at Second City, we were playing everything. But what women were being hired to do back then was not that. And then, so they were just doing all kinds of things and coming out and doing a million characters. And Lorraine Newman came out and did about, 11 characters is what I remember. And I just said, oh my God, I want to be here. So that was it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, when we talk about the Groundlings, what did you learn about yourself going into the theater, going into the Groundlings forever, coming up to 50 years? What have you learned about yourself going on this journey?
I learned, oh my God, where do I start? You'd have to give me in relation to what I've learned about. I mean, improv will tell you more and more about yourself all the time. I mean, I teach musical improv classes, not at the Groundlings, although I used to, but I had somebody take that class from me for years, and said because it was cheaper than therapy. So you do learn. Is this okay on camera? I'm allergic to
Yeah,
that.
no, please.
Okay. It won't get any sloppier than that. Okay. So well, I've learned that I'm wired to be creative. It's not that I didn't know that, but there's a yes and this. Yes, I'm wired to be creative, and you're not happy if you don't continue, no matter where your professional life goes, whether you get the brass ring or not. And I tell this to students all the time. I'm wired for this. I have to do it.
You got to get it out.
I just have to do it. I love it. But you learn a lot about yourself. You learn about how you learn to be more generous. You learn to be, you catch yourself in things. You catch yourself. Am I being narcissistic on stage? Am I being selfish on stage? How do I navigate a dangerous situation? It's not real danger, but it's staged. So so you learn. It's like little mini life skills in there. But what I've learned about myself, well, you learn that in your whole life, not just being in the Groundlings. But I learned that I love collaboration. I also love to write alone. I do, but I mean, I learn a lot from students. I learn a lot from when I directed the main company. After having been in the company, I came back many years later and directed the main company for 2 different runs of shows. And sitting in that audience night after night, I learned more about acting than I ever did on the stage.
Wow. I
could see who was phoning it in. I could see who was having a genuine moment of discovery, and watching how audiences responded to that and when they could fool an audience. And it was really something.
So what do you believe holds actors and actresses back from taking either more improv or just taking that plunge? Is there something of a discovery that scares them when they get up on stage and they just say, hey, this is too real for me, or it's too much pressure? What do you think that looks like?
I think it's different for different people. It depends on what your wiring is, what your personality is, and what your challenges have been in your life. I've had people recently at the Screen Acting Studio, because I'm doing it's an improv class for actors. So it's not about let's make up some funny sketches. It's like, how does this help you in your script work? And so many of them said, I was really afraid to take this because I'm not comfortable if I don't have the words in front of me. I'm not a writer. So they feel stupid trying to make something up. Other people can't wait to get there and learn it. I think one thing that holds people back is I think some people take improv lightly and they think it's for people who aren't serious. I don't think most people who are professionals think that, because I think they know better. But I think some people just don't. You just don't know how great it's going to be to do it. How it's what sometimes I'll leave the stage and I'll say, well, I just got something great out of that, and I don't know what it is, but I know something really wonderful just happened, because it gives you a chance to correct these little things in your life.
I like that. Now, with this, and I love the track that we're on. Is there anything that would scare you? Like when we talk about going on stage and they're afraid to take that plunge, what is it about the entertainment industry, if anything, that scares you?
I'm afraid. I have anxiety before every show. Not directing, not going out and taking care of other people on the stage. See, you know how sometimes at least in my case, and a lot of people say the same thing. I can ask for a favor for someone else. It's not a problem for me at all, but to ask for myself, it's hard. So it's if I'm taking care of other people, I'm not nervous. I'm, I have anxiety that it's not going to be good, that we're not going to connect, that I'm not going to be on top of my game. And then I have these talks with myself, because it's the deal. You don't know what's going to, if you're improvising, you don't know what's going to happen. Right. You can't know what they're going to suggest and what the director will accept as a suggestion. You can't know that. And you can't know, you don't even know who you're going to do the scene with, and you can't know what they're going to do and what state of mind they're going to be in. So there's no way to know. And so you could be out there with an 8-person cast and 7 of them can be on a roll and you're not. And that feels pretty awful. But what you do is you be a good improviser, and then you can be a good if you know how to improvise, you just be a good improviser. So it's not your night to be on a roll. I've seen people rise from that. I've told this to a lot of students. There's do you know Cedric Yarbrough? He's an actor. He was on Reno 911. He does a lot of stuff. And he's in a show called The Black Version. Jordan Black is a Groundlings alum. And it's an all-black cast. The audience yells out real movies. They choose one, and they do the black version of that movie. And it's directed by Karen Mariyama, also a Groundlings alum and teacher. And one night I saw them do Top Gun, and it started out with 4 guys on stage in chairs pretending they were in not pretending, improvising, they're in the plane, pretending. I should slap for that. The first 3 guys were on a complete roll when they started, every line out of their mouth. And I watched Cedric not care that was happening. I watched him just enjoy being out there, pay close attention. And by the end of the scene, he'd risen to the point where he became kind of a major player in the rest of the show. Wow. I said, if I had that on video, I would have made that a requirement to show to every single class I teach. because he didn't bail and he didn't push.
He just let it unveil in front of him and see what he could do with it.
But and so I've learned from him. I learned from other improvisers too. Things they've told me, things that that I've seen and watching them, and I've learned. But it doesn't change. I just don't know what's going to happen. And even with scripted material, you don't know what's going to happen, but you're more protected. You're in a show. You've got other people in the scene. Everybody wrote it. It's not as terrifying as improv.
Now, as you share with us the anxiety that you have, do you prefer being in front of the camera, behind the camera, in the reference of directing versus the stage?
But I love it all. I love it all. People have asked me that. Would you rather be writing? Would you rather be acting? Would you rather be? I just love it all. What's natural to me, at least from childhood, was doing characters, seeing people and picking up on things they did and being fascinated by that, and writing. I did that because if you don't have an acting job, you can't just sit around the house acting. But if you don't have a writing job, you can write. I write almost every day, and I don't really have a lot of time right now to write. And so I squeeze it in, and it's just, and sometimes I'm writing something, and sometimes I'm just writing, just exercises, just things to keep me, keep the muscle.
Just keep it going.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we talk about your writing and your acting, is there any specific source where you get your inspiration from?
That's interesting. Well, in acting, the inspiration is the material, right? You get a piece of material, or you talk to a director or somebody who, if you're lucky enough to be brought on as opposed to have to audition, then somebody has a vision they can explain to you. So that's the inspiration there. For writing, I can't even tell you, because it just starts to come out when it's time, and I try to make it happen, and that never works. And sometimes I'll go back and find things I've written and say, how did that come out of me? I can't believe that. I don't even remember that. And then other times it's a slog, and then I'll get a line I loved or something. So, but inspiration really comes from reading and living. So you read and stories, and it sets your mind going, and interacting and living, watching people. Living in this world and having opinions about things and passions and feelings and disappointments, and then one day you say, well, what if so and so was going through that, and that was oh, wait a minute, that's a story. So something will take over.
So outside of the acting and the directing and the writing, what passions do you pursue that contribute to your personal and creative growth?
Hanging out with people is really good for your creative growth, and it's also good for your mind, because I heard this on NPR a few years ago. They talked to people who had lived to be in their hundreds, and you know how they say doing puzzles is really good for your mind and all that. They said, absolutely, that's good for your mind, but nothing's better than social contact, because it keeps you. See, I just got another, like, happy 4th of July. Anyway, so yeah, because when you're having conversation, it's like improv. You don't know what's going to be said next. And then so I'll get ideas from being with people. I don't know. I try to attend to body, mind, and spirit. I work out, and I exercise, and I have a family that and a lot of my friends are people who for whom the currency is laughter. So I have 2 older brothers who are hilarious. my husband is really funny. And so there's a lot of that's a passion for me. It really is, being with people I care about.
Love that.
You
And where can people learn more about you?
know? Oh my gosh. Well, let's see. They can learn more about me. I don't know how to answer that.
Are you on TikTok? Are you on social
Oh,
media?
yes. I have an Instagram account. I haven't been going there a lot, but I'm going to soon. And I am on Facebook.
Perfect.
But yeah, not a huge social media person, but
We'll find you for sure.
yeah.
Is there anything that you're currently working on or kind of on the back burner that you can share with us?
I have yeah, anybody in Canada want to publish a book? It's not about
What's the
improv.
book about?
Um, it's a book of short stories ostensibly written by the pets of famous writers.
From the
And
pets of famous writers.
it's like Robert Louis Stevenson's dog, Maya Angelou's cat, you know, there it goes on, and it's called Eat, Pee, Love. And I have an agent. I need a publisher.
Eat, pee, love. Okay.
Uh-huh.
If anyone's out there listening, you know, have any links
Yeah.
to a publisher, let us know.
Don't steal it. I copyrighted it years ago. A lot of people know about it, but please, I love a publisher.
So, Phyllis, I want to ask you something a little closer to home for you. What is something that people tend to misunderstand about you?
Man, you'd have to ask them. What people misunderstand about me? That's a wonderful question. And uh, I think some people, okay, this is true. I'm not trying to be clever here. I think some people think I'm a lot stronger than I am. And I think some people think I'm weaker than I am.
Okay. Yeah.
Not strong, weak, vulnerable.
Vulnerable. Okay.
Some people, and because maybe I think this is true of everybody, but I can say of myself. Um, I have my tendernesses and I have my strengths, and I think some people don't see that, but I don't know if that's a general view or not, because it never occurred to me. Misunderstand.
It's a hard hitting question on coffee.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. I don't even know if my answer was accurate. It's just what came to me.
No, that's perfect. And Phyllis, if you had a magic wand, what would you change about society tomorrow if you could just?
I would make okay. You don't even have time for my list, but I would make the truth clear. So I would make the truth clear so that everybody would know what the real truth is. Okay. And then and I would make people more empathetic and inclusive.
Love it. Yeah.
And I would give everybody a great place to live and enough money and a job that they love, and that they're paid what they deserve for. And I think if everybody had whatever kind of love they want,
Mm-hmm.
and um and um and had and I would like everybody to feel seen and heard.
Love it.
And then and if everybody had that and didn't have to worry about money and they were all healthy, what else can anybody want? How could you be cruel to somebody under those things?
100%.
And I don't know where you're at this, and there might be a lot of backlash on this. And take every gun off the planet. See, you don't want to get me started. It gets worse. So it's just,
Well, I'll tell you what, I have time for one last question for you.
Yeah.
And it's been absolutely a pleasure being here with you today. But Phyllis, what makes you smile?
Well, a lot of things make me smile. Funny things make me smile. Irony makes me smile. My dog makes me smile. A lot of things make me smile.
I love it. I've never had anyone say ironing yet, and I'm going to keep it on that one.
Yeah.
But Phyllis, that's all the time I have for you today on Coffee with Chris. Thank you so much for your time. You're an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Everyone
Thank you
out
for
there,
having me on.
everyone out there, make sure you Google Phyllis Katz, find thegroundlings.com, Google as much as you possibly can, find everybody out there. It's absolutely amazing. Thank
And
you
if
so
you're,
much.
yeah, if you're, we even have online classes.
There you
So,
go. Online
so
class is
check out the
thegroundlings.com,
challenge.
right?
Yep.
Perfect. Remember to smile to inspire everybody and have a fantastic day. Thank you.